The most common causes of wrongful conviction here in California, like the rest of the country, are mistaken eyewitness identification, false confessions, and false testimony by jailhouse informants. Mistaken eyewitness identification has been shown to be the most common cause, especially cases of cross-racial identification. Many of us are personally in situations where we see someone who looks familiar, and then we get close and realize that's not the person that we thought it was. When you're in a stressful situation, when you're being victimized, robbed, raped, or part of a crime, your ability to remember and perceive what's happening is really highly compromised. And when you are then called on later to identify who the perpetrator is, we actually make mistakes more often than we think. The second leading cause of wrongful convictions here in California and across the country is false confessions. Many people don't understand why someone would confess falsely to a crime. We think if it were me and I were there, I would say I didn't do it and I would never confess falsely. The reality is, when you're in the situation, when you are being interrogated, often for 10, 12, or 15 hours, the stress of the situation can lead many people to give a false confession. This is frequently seen with young people, people who are very immature, people who are mentally disabled, people who are mentally retarded. There's a very high level of false confession. But anyone can be put in a situation where they ultimately give a false confession. Harold Hall is a person here in California who gave a false confession, and that led to his spending 19 years in prison for 2 murders that he did not commit. The third most common cause of wrongful convictions is false testimony by jailhouse informants. In fact, false testimony by jailhouse informants is the leading cause of wrongful convictions in death penalty cases. Frequently in death penalty cases, there are no eyewitnesses, and there's very little forensic evidence. And so jailhouse informants are often used as the key to getting the conviction. And often, even more important, is the use of the jailhouse informant to get the death sentence. Jailhouse informants provide testimony that is used to show that a defendant was the actual shooter, for example, rather than the getaway driver. Or jailhouse informants might testify to comments that a defendant made in jail that were disrespectful about the victim or boasting about the crime. And that kind of testimony is used to get someone sentenced to death, someone who may in fact be remorseful, someone who may have been involved in the crime in a minor way. So false testimony by jailhouse informants is particularly dangerous.